Hello, Stampers, and welcome to Stampin' on the Hill. I'm Deb Keyes. Today we're going to talk about embossing, heat embossing. We've done dry embossing before with the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine and the folders and whatnot. So today we're going to try heat embossing. If you haven't already done that, stick with me. I'm going to, I think we're just going to jump right in. Let's put this down to my hands and let's talk about the tools. This is an old set. There is actually an item in the catalog or online called Embossing Editions Toolkit. And what you get is a tray similar to this. I believe the new one has like a screw off top, but this has got like a little funnel. And once you put your embossing powder in here, it's easy to then take the lid off and then just pour it back into the container. So you get the tray and then you get a brush so you can, brush all that off, or you can actually use the brush to maybe brush off some little flecks of embossing powder that may be stuck to where you didn't want it to on your cardstock. Although this is kind of too big of a brush for that, in my opinion. So I really think it's to clean the tray. That's what I use it for. You also get some reverse tweezers. Again, these are older. I didn't buy the new one. I mean, this whole set was not being sold for a while, so they have just recently, in the last year or so, brought it back. So these are reverse tweezers. These are handy. And then you get an embossing buddy. Now, the embossing buddy, I'm not sure what's actually in this. It's just, I'm not sure if you can really tell what kind of fabric this is, but it's fabric and it's got something in there. I don't know what, maybe cornstarch, something, but I do use this and I'll show you how to use this in just a sec. You're also going to need, let's put some of this stuff away. You know what? Sometimes instead of the tray, I just bring in a coffee filter, and I find it's much less fuss to just use a coffee filter. So we're going to use that. We also are going to need some kind of a sticky ink. So Versamark is perfect for this, and it's just a clear. When you use Versamark ink, you're just going to get clear ink. It's not going to be any color whatsoever, but it's very sticky. Or you can use, I have a white craft pigment ink, craft pad. And I often use this. If I'm going to use white embossing powder, I usually use a white craft pad. So, and I think there's a vanilla one, or there used to be, I don't know. Anyway, I usually use the white or the Versamark. Those are my go-tos. We're going to start with a piece of black. And what we're going to do, we don't need that just yet. I'm going to turn on we're going to need a heat embossing tool as well. I didn't mention that, but that's pretty important. Hair dryer, nope, will not work with a hair dryer. Your hair dryer does not get a hot enough concentration of heat, and you'll see why in a minute. But I'm going to turn this on, and hopefully it's in the background here. Hopefully it's not going to be too loud. Can you hear it? Sorry. All right, so we're going to I'm using a new set that I got. It's called With You in Mind. This is kind of really nice. I don't know if you're aware, this got this little symbol on here that somebody, and I can't remember her name off the top of my head, sorry, hit $1 million in sales. And then they get to, with some Stampin' Up staff, get to create their own stamp set. So we are going to use this one today, and the words are really big. I'm going to open this up so you can kind of see how big they are. These are huge. So realistically, this is going to take up your whole card, which is kind of fun. So anyway, I haven't used it yet, but we're going to try it today because I thought, well, maybe this will work for us for embossing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my embossing buddy, and I'm going to run it over, and you can kind of see from where my finger was that it's putting a little bit of a white powder coat on here. This is going to make sure that the embossing powder only sticks to where I want it, then I'm going to bring in, and I'm going to do this one in white. I'm going to bring in my white pad. My white pad's pretty rough. I should probably get out that new one and actually use it. But you know, if it still works, why bother, right? And we're going to ink up. And I like to make sure I have lots of good coverage on here. We're going to ink this up. We're going to stamp it down here, and then you have to work a little bit quickly in order. I'm holding this while I'm talking. You have to work a little quickly to get the powder on before whatever this wet sticky ink is dries. After you get the powder on, you have a little bit of time. But this is, I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with this yet. We're not actually gonna make a card out of any of the samples that I'm using or making today with you. So I have some white embossing powder. The embossing powders now come, and I don't use it very often, so I have not replaced mine yet, but the embossing powders come in a 3-pack. So you can either get like the basics colors, which is clear, white, and black, or you can get a metallics grouping, which is copper, gold, and silver. And I'm going to flick this. Okay, so I got the once I get the powder on, we're good to just set it aside for a minute. But the main part that you really want to do is get this. So if I just kind of put this in half and bring this back in, we can just dump it right back into the container. But you really want to make sure you get that container closed up before you bring your heat gun in. Otherwise, you're going to have a big mess. Ask me how I know. All right, I'm moving the ink out of the way for a while. So I'm going to hold my heat gun about 3-4 inches away, and I'm going to concentrate on one place at a time, and I will move it very slowly. You should be able to see it. Hold it up close enough. So once it turns glossy and it's not granulated anymore, then you know that the powder is melted and you know that it's good enough. If you overheat it, it's going to flatten it back out, and then you're not going to be happy with the results. So only heat it until the granulation turns into a gloss. Does that make sense? So there's one, and it really pops, doesn't it? It's kind of cool. All right, so let's move that one out of the way, and I need to clean this off, or I'm going to stick my finger in it. The one thing bad about the white is that it makes a mess out of your chamois, and then you have to go clean it right away because otherwise it gets on everything. All right, so I'm going to put this one aside. I have a different method now to show you. We're going to bring in a scrap piece, and we're going to do, let's see, we're going to do a flower, and I'm going to do the flower in clear. Okay, so let's get my clear ready to go here and my pad here. So I'm just going to stamp this simply in Versamark, and you're not going to be able to see anything until we put, well, who knows. But I'm going to show you kind of what it's supposed to look like. See, really can't see anything. I'm going to put my clear embossing powder on here. And you'll notice I did not use my embossing buddy for this. I find it's mostly important to use when you're using black or dark colored cardstock, because typically it doesn't matter as much with a white cardstock. You'll get a feel for what you want or like to do. And then we're going to heat this one up a minute. Watch when it turns glossy. So there's one. And then what we're going to do is we're going to, what was I going to do with this? Oh, I was going to do like a reverse emboss resist. I'm sorry, that's what it's called. So I'm bringing in, this is Granny Apple Green ink and a blending brush. And I'm just going to show you quick how when you hold this down and we blend around it. And yeah, I know I'm getting it all over my mat, and it's okay. I'm just going to wipe it up quick when we're finished. So you can put as much ink around this as you want. This is, again, called Emboss Resist. And it comes, the resist part comes when you clean it off. So I just have a little paper towel, and then I'm going to hold where it's not embossed, and I'm just going to give this a little buff with my paper towel, and then you can see how nice and bright my little flower is. And we're going to wipe this off with a chamois. So there's another idea. Let's see. We're going to bring back our green again, and then I have some leaves. And what we're going to do now is, now you want to make sure that you're going to ink with Versamark first and then in green. So now I'm going to still use my clear powder. Let me move this away, get this ready, just to make sure that I'm not leaving it unattended too long. So I'm still going to use a clear powder. I'm going to use these leaves, and I'm going to stamp in Versamark first. Make sure you don't do it the other way around, or you will ruin your Versamark pad by getting green ink on it. So Versamark first, then green ink, and then stamp, and then embossing powder. Get this back in there. Close it up in between. I'm serious, this is really important to close it up in between. And even still, I find that every time I use, even though I've cleaned it up, I still feel like you can feel it. There's a little bit of grit still. So the glass mat's handy. It cleans easily. Did you see it turn and get all dark and green and pretty? So there's another method. And then I have one more I was going to try. We're going to get rid of the green, and we're going to bring in, where did I put my, so we're going to kind of do the same method. Okay, so we're going to try this using Stampin' Write markers. So I'm going to use the brush end of both of these. Let's get those ready. And then we're still going to use our clear powder. And I'm going to stamp it in the Versamark first. And this one I'm doing the cupcake, okay? And then you can color on your stamps with the Stampin' Write markers. Do not do this with the blends that are alcohol based. That is not going to be good. You will ruin your stamps. We don't want that. But you know that you can color with these markers, right? Did anybody get some of these markers when we just had that promotion? The markers were free if you signed up to be a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. All right, So let's try that. See how this works. I'm going to stamp this right in the middle. And then we're going to add some powder. Get that back in there. Close this up. Let's close up this too. And where'd my tweezers go? There they go. Let's try one more time. Well, I have to say that although it's glossy, and you can't really tell in I guess depending on where I put the light, you can hardly tell, but it is in there, so that's kind of fun. We could do, now that it's like this, we could do some blending brush, different color over the top of that, and then wipe it off too. I don't have a color right handy to try that, but I just thought of that as I was doing it. You could do that. Sometimes too many colors make a messy mess, so I'm just going to leave that for now. But I do have some other options to share with you. So I have like full cards, because I mentioned we weren't going to make full cards today. So this one, I used the Cheerful Daisies, and I stamped, well, actually what I did first was I blending brushed the colors on first. No, I didn't. I actually put the white daisies embossing powder on and heat set that, and then I brushed the color over the top of it. So there's one. And this one, I actually stamped the blue and the pink. I stamped first, and then I stamped with white. You can barely see. Let me show you if you can see it in there. I stamped the colors first, and then I stamped it with white, and then I used embossing powder on those. And then I came back in with the blending brush, and I just blended over the tops of that. I didn't even go all the way across the card. So there's that one. And then this one, I actually did green ink and Versamark with clear powder, and then I embossed, or I used a blending brush and added more color on that one too. This one I ended up doing in black, and I used clear, well, I stamped the image in black, and then I used clear embossing powder on it anyway. And then I ended up coloring these with blends after I've embossed it. So there are a couple examples for you. The software that I use has got some new features on it, and I didn't want to hit the wrong button. I haven't figured out what they are yet or how to use them, but hopefully that's coming soon. That'll be fun. So if you liked this video, I would appreciate you giving me a thumbs up. If you are watching me on YouTube, please subscribe, because that's always helpful to me. And I wanted to also mention too, I mentioned this before, but I've got retired items in an album on Facebook. If you can't find it, please instant message me or direct message me, and I will help you to find it. But they're in an album called SU Retired Product Sale. It's on the Stampin' on the Hill Facebook page. So I guess that's it for now. So until next time, thanks for watching.